Welcome to the Trading Sliders Podcast. Here we go, episode number 39 of the Trading Sliders Podcast. How's everybody doing out there? Not in studio today is me or Flash. I am currently in St. Augustine, Florida after a busy weekend, and Flash is back home in Clarksville, Indiana. I'm preparing to race tonight because he knocked the rust off last night, and Flash, he's been getting everything covered in Indiana while I've been on the road here in Georgia and Florida. But what's going on, Flash?
Not much, man. Just got done doing my favorite chore, which is getting tires ready for tonight.
Yeah, that's the least fun part of racing, minus fixing the bodywork.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, that's so.
The fun part's the 10 minutes you're out there.
Yeah, it's just fun for a little bit. This week's guest is Ben Harmon, current Northen Allstar Modified Series point leader. Ran second last year in the Cumberland Plateau Open Wheel Modified Series. Former track champion at the I-65 Raceway, where Flash is going to be racing later this evening. Ben Harmon, Brooks, Kentucky, third-generation racer. This week's interview is a real fascinating interview because we've known Ben for a while. I've known him basically his entire life, but growing up in a legendary racing family and got big shoes to fill, and he talks about that and a bunch other this week. This week's deep dive is really fascinating, and it's kind of funny because as we did the interview, I was like, man, he's kind of growing up a little bit right before our eyes. So that's this week's guest, Flash.
Yeah, it's pretty cool getting Ben on there, I think, because like I said, we've known him I ain't known him as long as you have, but I've watched him his whole racing career anyway, and he's turned into a hell of a wheel man.
We do this each and every week, but it's something that we got to do to make sure this show still happens. So our title sponsor, Diesel Boys LLC, Brandon Hooker and the guys over at Diesel Boy. If you need anything diesel truck related, reach out to Brandon Hooker and Diesel Boys. They'll get you taken care of. Our deep dives presented each and every week by Kentucky Clutch and Performance. Chris Harmon and the guys at Kentucky Clutch and Performance. If you need anything automotive, farm related, semi truck, pulling truck, it's that time of year where all the county fairs are starting. So if you got demo cars out there, if you're running the 4-cylinder demo cars, anything you need, Kentucky Clutch and Performance can get you taken care of, clutch-related wise, and they present our deep dive. Our slider of the week being brought to you each and every week by Walt at Speed Decals. He had a pretty good one this week. Walt has been a continuous sponsor since day one, so if you need any vinyl work whatsoever done, he's even doing banners, like senior graduation banners. So any type of vinyl work that you can dream of, he can make happen. Reach out to Walt at Speed Decals. And our crash of the week is being brought to you by D.O. Handyman and Remodeling. If you need anything handyman related around the Kentucky-Anna area, southern Indiana, get a hold of David at D.O. Handyman Remodeling, 812-989-5002. And this week, Flash, we could have had 30 crashes of the week from all the crash videos you've seen going around with racing every night of the week. So we can
multiple places.
Yeah, we can give some honorary nominees as well in the crash of the week. This is the first time me and Flash are doing this remote, both being remote from two different parts of the country. So we hope this comes across clear. But this week's news, Summer Nationals always delivers, and it's delivering again. Sprint car racing is alive and well in Indiana area. Flash is going to talk about that because he went to Circle City this weekend, so he's going to cover that for us. And we're going to talk about Flash knocking the whole rust off. Sprayed some WD-40 on those elbow joints and hit the road and did some racing this weekend. First time in a year or two.
And I had to pick the hottest week of the year to try it.
Yeah, well, that's you wouldn't do it any other way, would you?
No, I don't guess so.
And past guests of the show have had a huge week this week. We're going to cover that. And some little bitty skinny kid named Buddy Kofoid decided to win $350,000 between two sprint car races. So he had a pretty good week. He had a little bit better week than we did. I don't know. I'm sitting here at the beach right now, so I'm going to have a pretty good week. But Buddy Kofoid, he did Buddy Kofoid things. We're going to start off with all of our previous guests over the last 40 episodes have had a tremendous. This was a week like if you were a previous guest of the Trading Sliders podcast, everything good happened to you. Even the few guys that didn't win, they set quick time and passed 16 and 17 cars in their features. But Ricky Lewis did Ricky Lewis things. He won Friday at Circle City Raceway. which when we get into results, Flash is going to talk about that. But he won Friday at Circle City Raceway. And then what's he do? Just flies across the country and wins Saturday night at Paris Auto Speedway in California on a last lap pass, because that's just kind of what Ricky Lewis does. One of our very first guests back, seems like 20 years ago, Brian Barber picked up the modified win at Lake Cumberland Speedway Friday evening. So shout out to Bandit House Car and Brian Barber for getting that done. Also at Lake Cumberland Speedway Friday evening, our first late model guest, so to speak, AWAT, Jeff Watson, picked up the late model feature Friday night at Lake Cumberland Speedway, and they doubled up last night at the Rock, picked up the feature win at Rockcastle. Also ran third in the modifieds at Rockcastle last night. So Jeff Watson had a very good weekend. Kyle Cummins is still doing Kyle Cummins things, running away right now with the USAC National Point Lead. He picked up the Eastern Storm win at Big Diamond Raceway. And we also want to give a shout out to Tyler Nicely and Felicia Nicely on their baby boy, Ashton Carter Nicely. So Tyler talked about that a few weeks ago, back when we had him on. He didn't get to do any summer national racing until the baby got here. Well, the baby's here. So there's 3 weeks of summer national racing left. I'm going to go out on a limb. I haven't talked to Tyler about it, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this week he'll probably still be around the house, but in a couple weeks you'll see him on the road again.
Yeah, I'd say he'll make a couple of them anyway, surely.
And like I said in the opener, Flash went to Circle City, Brownstown, and on his way to I-65 later this evening. And I made the trip down to Senoia Raceway for the Topless Outlaw late models, $4,000 to win. 43 cars Flash signed in at Senoia Raceway, so we're going to get into that. But first things first, Buddy Kofoid picked up $100,000 to win on Thursday night. And how does he back that up? With a $250,000 to win Saturday night at Houston Speedway. I didn't see this, obviously, because I've been driving and Flash was racing all weekend. And we usually don't
watch Thursday though.
You did watch Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday was awesome. That was a killer race there.
Yeah.
Him and Bill Baylog.
Yes.
They traded sliders for 2 or 3 laps there, and I thought Baylog was gonna pull it off for a little while, but Buddy Kofoid, he just got up on a wheel. Well, that's all there was to it.
Well, I watched the highlights back on all this stuff while I was driving and riding and driving. And one more thing. Shout out to my wife, because I usually drive everywhere we go. We travel the country, and I do 99% of the driving. We had a lot of stuff going on this week outside of racing with our family, so we had stuff that we had to attend to, and I kind of was running a little behind on the podcast stuff. So my wife drove all the way to Chattanooga the other night while I did all of our podcast stuff and upcoming guests and all kinds of stuff. So big thank you to her for making the 4-hour drive. And going, funny thing, Flash, she said this is the first time she's ever been up Mount Eagle with it not raining, not snowing, and then you added not asleep.
Not asleep.
Yeah. She's
crashed out in the back seat.
Yeah, she's been up Mount Eagle probably 100 times in her life, and it's the first time she's been up at 3 times awake. So, but yeah, she did some driving, especially where I could edit a couple interviews because our next few weeks are going to be busy as we're going to speak to in the upcoming events. But,
you got a pretty good one there.
Yeah, I did all right. Yeah, for the most part. Well, unless she gets about 3 hours of sleep, then you're on the verge of not so all right sometimes. But all is well.
Or you miss the exit to go pee.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you said that because I told her, I said, it must just be riding in the passenger seat. She's like, what? I was like, you think you could pull over? Because I got to pee. And she goes, yeah, I'll stop in about 4 rest areas. So.
Yeah. Payback time.
Yeah, payback time. So before we get into our results and what we did this weekend, I want to make a note of the sprint car racing in Indiana, the Indiana region, Indiana, Ohio region being healthy. Because we hear a lot of bitching and the summer national stuff. The summer nationals car count is super healthy. The sprint cars, the open wheel cars in Indiana is healthy. I just want to make a note of this. Friday night at Circle City, there was 39 410 non-wing sprint cars. Also Friday night at Lincoln Park Speedway, there was 40 wing sprint cars. At Moeller Raceway, just across the state line there in Ohio, there was 33 wing sprint cars for the O'Reilly. I keep saying that, the All-Star Circuit Champion Ohio Sprint Speed Week. I keep saying O'Reilly. They're not gonna help us out with anything because they're gonna be like, O'Reilly's don't freaking sponsor us no more. But I can tell you one thing. Tony Stewart and them did a good job at making sure you knew who their sponsors were, because here it is 5 years later and I'm still calling them the O'Reilly sprint cars.
Just call them the same thing.
And Lyman Land Friday night, just across the border there, they had 30 non-wing sprint cars. And then Saturday night, Paragon had 32 wing sprint cars. Florence, a late model track, had 24 IMCA Race Saver sprint cars. Red Hill Raceway had 24 non-wing sprint cars. And then Tuesday night, Eldora had 40 wing sprint cars and 36 non-wing sprint cars. So that little bubble right there, we had over 300 race cars racing between wing and non-wing in a 3 hours bubble. And that's pretty impressive for a part of the state that doesn't have Indianapolis is a big city, but it doesn't have a whole lot of population considered, you know, like most places. So, shout out to the sprint car guys getting out and racing, and I think a lot of that has to do with just the weather. Guys have been cooped up, and you guys that wouldn't make a 3 or 4 hour drive normally is like, screw it. We're going to go ahead and make this drive on a Tuesday night because we want to get some racing in.
I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the rainouts we had here lately too. You got all them guys are ready to race. You know, they bought tires and they're ready to run them.
Yeah, they're ready to buy more. You know. Let's run these off so we can get some more. I'm going to talk about the Summer Nationals from Monday night at Wilmot Raceway, and then after that, we're going to get into what we did this weekend. Main reason because we're both on remote, so we don't really know how this is going to turn out anyway. So you're kind of the guinea pigs with us. So we're just making sure this will work. But Monday night, the Summer Nationals, Wilmot Raceway, there was 35 late models. Drake Troutman took the win over Jason Fager and Joseph Joyner. Joseph Joyner led about 15, 16 laps and a couple cautions, and he had a terrible restart. And one of the cautions is this week's DO Handyman Remodeling Crash of the Week. Ashton Winger full sended, ripping the cushion there at Wilmot Raceway. And the cushion giveth, the cushion taketh away. And he passed I say it was probably 12 cars in the A-main before he ended up on his lid. Barrel road in the corner, looked like a sprint car. And there was plenty of sprint car wrecks. Flash, did you see the wreck going around at Atomic Raceway? The sprint car got up in the catch fence.
No, I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that one? Okay, you need to check it out. Look it up on Facebook. When we've been to Atomic, we always say, well, I probably wouldn't sit coming in turn 3 there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I probably still wouldn't sit coming in turn 3 there.
I'm not sitting there when sprint cars are there.
Yeah, they had a sprint car that damn near tried to leave the ballpark. He got to the top of the catch fence. It was a nasty one, but the catch fence did his job and threw him back in the racetrack. I mean, I guess if that's what you call doing your job, you get tossed back into the racetrack. You know, another 15 cars running 140 mile an hour at you.
Yeah.
But Drake Troutman took the win at the Summer National Race at Wilmot Raceway, and the thing about Troutman is, last year Turbo started clicking off some wins and got confident. And I think Troutman, going back and running the modified, he won the $100,000 to win race at the Mississippi Thunder Valley, and ever since then, I think he's just, I don't know if it's racing every night or I don't know exactly what it is, but he's a different animal.
I think when you do that and you start winning a couple races like that, you build your confidence, and then when you pull on the racetrack every time, you're planning on winning. You know what I mean? You're not trying to just let's get the best finish we can get. He's planning on winning when he goes now.
His best finish is going to be checkers. As he picked up the win last night, the $20,000 to win at I-55 Peevely also. But yeah, Troutman, I think he had 4 wins this week between the late model and mod. That's
Yeah.
a pretty solid week. I mean, if we had a performer of the week, it would definitely be Drake Troutman this week. um, so, but that's all I want to say about the Summer National stuff. There was racing on every night of the week, and we had so much that we could cover with Ohio Sprint Speed Week and USAC Eastern Storm, but we went to the races ourselves, so a lot of that was watching it back, and we didn't watch it live. So, Flash, tell us about Friday and Saturday, because I know you had Central Indiana covered this weekend.
Yeah. Well, right now, it's kind of like being at your house, Bobby. I'm directly in line with the UPS flight pass, so as soon as the jet gets over, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, we got to have background noises. If not, it wouldn't be the Trading Sliders podcast.
Yeah, we kind of do that. Anyway, Friday night I was supposed to practice at I-65, but they got rained out, or didn't get rained out. The track, they were still doing track work because they only run like once a year on that track, so it takes them a little bit to get it ready. But I went to Circle City, and like I said, they had 39 sprint cars up there, and Ricky Lewis and Jaden Rogers put on a heck of a show. Ricky Lewis got out about probably, he was a straightaway on Jaden Rogers, and Jaden Rogers ran him down in like 5 laps and then passed him. As soon as he passed him, caution comes out. So they put Ricky back up front. Ricky takes off again, gets a couple car lengths on him. Jaden Rogers gets going again, passed him again. Ricky Lewis gets his spot back. And then they only had about 3 laps to go, and by then Ricky knew what he was doing, so he kind of taking his slider line away. And one time there, they banged wheels coming off the corner, and it was just a racing deal. And I don't know how they kept going, but they all 4 cars there was all banging off each other, and they all kept going, and pretty much everybody kept the same spot they was in. So it was a good race, man. I mean,
well, I seen the video. Midwest Thunder Sprint Car Series. They do a pretty good job. They don't live stream their races because of Central Indiana and making sure you get fans to the racetrack. But they put the races out a day or two afterwards. And actually, I seen the video this morning. What you talking about? Ricky Lewis was doing. He started because he started entering low, scrubbing up to high to catch the cushion to come off just enough so Rogers couldn't rip the top. But he entered just low enough where he couldn't turn underneath him because of the tires down there would bid him. So Ricky Lewis, he's a smart racer, man.
And talking about those tires biting you, there was a sprint car, could have been one of the crashes of the week. He hooked the left front on the one of those tires down there, and he went end over end about 6 times all the way up until he hit the wall.
Well, that's
luckily he jumped out. I didn't get his name. I should have got who his name was, but he got out and was okay. One of them younger kids seemed like he just jumped right out like it wasn't nothing.
Yeah, he's not old dude like us.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Only thing I'm jumping out of is a cop car or something if he's got me, but that's it.
And I'm gonna screw this name up too, but that Ty Mahako or whatever.
No, you got it right. That's a name I can pronounce.
That dude he's a wheel man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he's another.
He got up to third, and he was running them guys down. It was going to be a good race. If it had 5 more laps, it would have been really good. Yeah,
Todd Mahako is another West Coast guy, Arizona native. That Arizona California little triangle right there. They produce some guys that have big sets and no fear, and no fear at all. I mean, they just flat go at it. And he's from like the same area that Kyle Shipley's from. Those guys they drive hard and crash harder. They have no fear at all.
That track was awesome the other night though. It had a big cushion, and it was just like kind of like Hobstyle where you had to drive in and then you drive off right on the wall, and the cushion was right on the wall coming off 2 and coming off 4. So you had to just drift across that way and catch the cushion to come off. It was a pretty awesome little racetrack over Friday night.
Well, we've said this before, but I think Circle City Raceway is maybe one of the hidden gems. It is the hidden gem in the state of Indiana, but it may be one of the hidden gems in the Midwest. I mean, it's one of those racetracks it always produces. And the people that are running it are doing such an incredible job. We've been there twice with weather in the area. Actually, I've been there 3 times with weather in the area, and 1 time weather won. But the other 2 times, they beat the weather when they shouldn't have that evening. Because of just grit and determination and not messing around. So, hats off to Circle City. They've been doing a phenomenal job.
There wasn't a lot of people in the stands, which it was pretty warm, but the other night. But man, people need to go to that racetrack. That's one we don't want to lose. That's a nice place, and we need to get some more people in the stands there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the pro late models though, I was going to talk about that, and for some reason I thought it was Tyler Neal that won, but he wasn't even there. So the guy's name was Brent McMillan that won the.
Well, that's pretty close. See, I'm gonna let you screw all the names up this week.
Yeah, but Trent Green, man, they had about 5 to go. They was running 3 or 4 wide for the lead, and Trent Green had a run on them guys. He ran up on the guy and dove down and was going to have him pass going in the corner, and they had some kind of big melee on the backstretch, so they had to pull it back. And after that, Trent never did get up there again. Well, I think what happened then, I think Trent was behind Tyler Kane. Tyler Kane was leading, and he jumped a cushion, and I think then Trent Green had to dodge him and got like back to third, but he drove his way back up to second, and then Zach Burton ended up rounding out the top 3. But that was also a really good race, and I didn't stay for much after that because I had to get home to get up early and work on the car the next morning. So
yeah, nothing like I'm going to go race and let's work on it Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I already had it on the trailer. I thought I was done, but no, I was nowhere close.
Well, that's when you say you had to knock the rust off, you had to knock the rust off the preparation, the mindset. Okay, I got to get this done. I mean, there's all kinds of rust you had to knock off.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I should have did, I should have took 3 bolts out of the flap over the brake pedals and checked the brake fluid, because that's what happened to me last night. I ran out of brake fluid because I didn't check it. We've been sitting for a year.
Well, that's you're doing other stuff like nut and bolt check, getting tires ready.
Yeah.
Who needs brakes?
I had all that part done.
Yeah, who needs brakes?
Important part I didn't do.
Yeah, that's funny. So how first off, how did the car do, and how did Flash do last night at Brownstown?
Oh, it was fine. I did pretty good. I mean, the car was good. It just, like I said, I had a crate car. Mine's just crates, and I was running with the supers last night. They ended up with 21 supers, and I ran over the bank in the heat race, so I started back in the back of the feature. And
well, that's like when we say Ricky Lewis does Ricky Lewis things. Flash does Flash things still too.
Yeah, and then but the feature of the car, the track slowed down a lot, and I was pretty good. It took them 17 laps to catch me and lap me. So
well, that's
I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that's a good night.
Yeah, and when they lapped me, and all I had was a left front brake. My rear brakes were gone. I didn't have any rear brake at all, because under the caution, we had a caution, and I was hit the brakes. All I had was a left front brake. So I said, well, heck, I can run here. I can run with just left front while nobody's around. And then when the leaders caught me, I went ahead and pulled off, because I didn't want to screw those guys up, because they're quite a bit faster than me.
Well, and the guys that ran first and second, with Devin Gilpin and Derek Groomer, they wouldn't care to tell you that you screwed them up either. So
yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
yeah, they wouldn't have cared at all.
Actually, in the heat race, when I ran over the bank on about lap 4, so I come back on. So they caught me on the last 2 laps, and Cody Mahoney was passing me. So I went over and asked him. I said, man, when they told me the layover flag, do y'all want me to stay at top? Do you want me to stay at the bottom? What you want me to do? He said, no, man, just do what you was doing. Hold your line. He said, because you wasn't screwing up. He said, as long as we know where you're at and where you're going to stay, we're good. So I said, well, that's what I'll do. But then in the feature, I didn't have, I was.
Can't hold your line with no brakes.
Yeah, I couldn't hold my line with just left front brakes. So I said, heck with it. I'm just going to pull off and let those guys race. I didn't want to screw up the night for everybody else. So. But yeah, that was a good race. So at Brownstown, we had 21 supers there, and like I said, Devin Gilpin won, and one of our guests, Derek Groomer, finished second, and Tyler Neal this time. I forgot he does have a super motor now. Yeah. He ran third. So it was
well, when you told me Tyler Neal won, I didn't look at the results. I was thinking, well, damn, he must have the super deal didn't last very long. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, I also wrote down here that Kurt the Flash Bennett did finish 17th.
Well, see,
21. So I beat somebody.
Well, you beat 4 somebodies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but overall, you had a good time, and looking forward to going to I-65 today.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It should be a better day today. I hope. We'll see. Yeah.
Well,
but in the super stocks up there last night at Brownstown, Zach Sasser doing Zach Sasser things, just run off left everybody.
Well, he doubled down this weekend. He picked the win up Friday night at Lincoln Park also.
Oh yeah. And then Tucker Chastain was second, and Jeremy Helton was third. And the pure stocks, it was Blake Hull and J.T. Huffman and Dalton Fleener. And Dalton Fleener finished third, but he was ripping the top, dude, the last 10 laps of that race. He was fun to watch. I mean, if there was a cushion up there, it wasn't 2 inches from going over the bank, but he was on it every single lap. Well, so he made the show. I mean, he made it worth watching last night. It was pretty good. Yeah.
Good deal. I'm glad you
And
have
we'll
fun.
get shout out to JT Huffman. Them they let my nephew drive his spare car last night, so he got to go out and make some laps too. So we had a good time. It's kind of family fair up there.
Yeah, well, that's you guys
Yeah,
kind of had a family reunion. Two guys that's
yeah,
been retired for a few years decided to come back on the same night.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty fun.
yeah, um,
Yeah,
yeah. I was keeping up a flash last night, and I said I was at Senoia Raceway. They had 43 topless outlaw late models. First, I want to say it's the hottest day I've ever been at. The hottest I've ever been at a racetrack. Um, the weather forecast yesterday for here, because my wife and I, we come down Friday night and we spent the day in Atlanta yesterday, and I'm gonna screw this up because I can't say words, but uh, we went to the gardens.
you went to botanical gardens.
Okay, yes, yeah,
I seen pictures.
I screwed up all kinds of words. I couldn't. That
Yeah,
first off, Flash, that was cool as hell.
yeah,
It was super nice. That was definitely wasn't expecting that. It was a big deal. I didn't realize that many people went to the
yeah.
botanical gardens, however you say it.
Right. Yeah,
I,
they got one right over here in Louisville off River Road that I've never. I keep saying I'm going to go over there, but I've never been there yet.
well, that's what Tanya told me. She's like, well,
Yeah.
there's one here in Louisville, but they had these tropical things, and me being a fat ass, I was like, man, it's so hot out here. Let's go into the air conditioning. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
greenhouse, like a rainforest, and it's
Yeah.
raining. So
Has a little bit of humidity in there.
yeah, a little bit. Lost
Yeah.
7 pounds when I looked at the banana leaf, Japanese wild turkey, maple leaf, something bonsai.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but
Right.
super pretty. But I did find one where I want to go though, Flash. If I got to get stranded anywhere in rainforest, I want to be stranded in the Indian rainforest because it was
Oh
about
yeah.
40 degrees in that building, with and the plants look good, and I got some relaxation, so I'm down for that.
Right. Yeah.
But we went to Senoia Raceway. Senoia Raceway, I'm gonna go ahead and say this: it is the best racetrack in the South
Yeah.
that I've been to. There may be better ones out there, but it is as close to a Midwest racetrack as you can get. Last night it was slick from top to about 3/4 way up, and it had a massive cushion where in the late model feature they were just ripping the wall like old school Eldora and just throwing haymakers on each other, throwing bombs. Austin Horton took the win. He started sixth. Rusty Ballinger started on the pole. He ended up second. After we talk about how he got second, but in the final rundown, Rusty Ballinger ended up second, and Tate McCollum's a young kid out of southeastern Georgia. That he is a flat wheel man, Flash.
Yeah.
Same way with Austin Horton and Michael Page. When you see guys like Will Harrington and Ashton Winger, you understand why that these kids race so hard. um,
Yeah.
because like last night, Horton started seventh and took the lead with Bollinger about halfway through, but the man in the show was Michael Page. Michael Page started 18th and got to second and threw a slider with 2 laps to go for the win. Took the lead.
Yeah.
Horton turned back under him. Well, when the race was over, they go across scales and they interview the top 3. Well, then they have post-race tech after scales. And in
Right.
post-race tech, well, let me back up. So Page had to start on the tail of his heat race because he broke an engine in qualifying, and his brother was running Page's backup car. So his
Right.
brother said, here, take my car. Well, he had to start on the tail of the heat. He started on the tail. They take the top 3. He started 12th and ran 3rd. So
Dang.
so that was impressive enough. Well, but
Yeah.
3rd in the 4th heat put him starting 18th in the feature because they lock in so many out of the quick 6 dash.
Right.
So he raced all the way up to the front, put on a show. Everybody standing up. I mean, probably the best race I've seen all year out of all the divisions I've seen. It was that good.
Yeah.
And the slider of the week is going to go to Austin Horton because he threw a slider on Rusty Ballinger for the lead initially. He drove this. Sometimes I'd be exaggerating a little bit, Flash, but
Yeah.
he literally, as they came off turn 2, he turned down the racetrack, and when they were coming off turn 4, he gained 7 car lengths and threw the slider. It wasn't like he was trailing him and then just pulled the trigger. I mean, he had his mind made up with 15 to go. I'm going. I mean, but he threw the slider, and it was the nastiest slider I've ever seen. Clean, didn't touch him. But Ballinger got on the brakes, pushed up, and then when he did, Page got by him as well. But in post-race inspection, they've got a cylinder head rule because it's a limited late model division. Basically, for people in the Midwest don't know what limited late model is. In the South, you got 900 late model divisions, and this here is you take a UMP open mod motor or USMTS open motor, steel block, aluminum head deal, and you put it in a late model, and they're super late model. Basically, what a super late model was 15 years ago. Essentially what this
engine-wise.
Yes. So they wanted to pull the heads off, and Michael Page was like, I'm not pulling the heads off my engine. I don't know if there's anything that he didn't want them to see. I don't know if because I think you can claim like 3 or 4 different engine rules and for weight rules, and a lot of times flat top pistons get like a 50-pound weight break. So I don't know if he claimed flat top and I don't know what the scenario was. His answer was, I broke one engine. This car, if I tear this engine down, I'm not going to be able to get my engines put back together next week to race. So just disqualify me. And Topless Outlaw late model said, okay, top 3, always go to tech, and this is what we do. So they just disqualified him. But so I mean, kind of sucked for Michael Page, but in the same token, I mean, he's won some Topless Outlaw late model races, so he knows what the tech is. So I'm not a Michael Page defender because I don't really know the guy. I like watching him race because he drives as hard as anybody does at the racetrack. But one thing, he broke an engine, and he's a smaller budget team, so he does have 2 cars. He wasn't going to tear his other engine down that night either. I get that too for a guy that's trying to race next week. So, But besides that, the trip at Senoia was incredible. Best lemonade you'll ever have at the racetrack, or that could have something to do with it being 97 degrees at the racetrack with about 92% humidity. So that was but that's how I spent my Saturday evening, and got on the road. And now we're down here in St. Augustine at the beach.
I was going to say one more thing about Brownstown, though. In that, in the pure stock race, Preston Carr,
yeah.
Yeah, he got upside down. I didn't see the whole wreck, but when I seen him, it looked like he was about 10 foot in the air, and he come back down, landed on the wheels, and he jumped. Like I said, he jumped right out too, being a young kid like that. But it was good to see him get out, and hopefully he's got that over with. He don't do that no more, because he drove from dead last in the B main and won it, and then he started in the back of the feature, and he was probably midway through the pack when he wrecked. So he's a heck of a little wheel man too. So it was good to see him get out of the car. So
Preston Carr,
he'll be right back next week.
Yeah, Preston. Carr, he is a phenomenal young driver, because I watched him it was at the beginning of this year. No, I think it may have been the end of last year. He almost won a feature at Brownstown. About 3 to go, he dropped the right front off on the backstretch, ended up about 4th. But he is a pretty good little wheel man.
He's going to be one of them. They need to maybe get him out on some other tracks besides just Brownstown sometime.
Get him out. Go ahead and break him early.
Just to get him used to some other tracks,
So this week's Racetrack Spotlight, when I do a Racetrack Spotlight, usually it's somewhere we're going, or the other things going on, or place you guys really need to check out. And this week here, as I was driving to Senoia, I drove right past the Dixie Speedway exit, and it's probably been 15 years since I've been to Dixie Speedway. But this week's Racetrack Spotlight is the Dixie Speedway in Woodstock, Georgia. It's a 3/8 mile D-shaped racetrack. It was the home of the original Dixie Shootout, or the Havatampa Shootout. Then it went to the Dixie Shootout. But this week they got Crate Racing USA late models, $3,000 to win. If you know anything about 604 Pro late models, crate late models, whatever you want to call them, East Tennessee and Northern Georgia is the hotbed for late model talent with in the crate racing world. So this week, if you're looking for a road trip to make, head down to Dixie Speedway. It's an awesome little racetrack. The good thing about Dixie Speedway is it's got concrete seating around, so you bring your pop-up chairs. They pit cars in the infield and they put them up on top of the hill. And the coolest thing about Dixie Speedway, for all this guys that grew up loving racing movies, the Six Pack movie was filmed there at Dixie Speedway. So that's a place that both Flash and I have been to, and it's been even longer since you've been there, isn't it, Flash?
Oh yeah. When I was there, I remember when I was there, Scott Sexton was still running there. So
yeah.
It's been a while since I've been there.
Yeah, that's been a while. So, but Dixie Speedway this week's racetrack spotlight. And then we're gonna get off here and listen to this week's deep dive presented by Kentucky Clutch Performance. Ben Harmon. It's time for the Trading Sliders deep dives presented by Kentucky Clutch and Performance. Here we go on this week's Trading Sliders deep dive. We have the third generation racer out of Brooks, Kentucky, the Brooks Bandit, B-Time Ben Harmon. How do you get like 4 nicknames?
I don't know. A lot of friends, know a lot of people, and you guys are always making some stuff up in the garage. So
well, luckily that's all they call you right now.
Yeah.
How you been?
I've been good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. I say third generation racer, but really you're a fourth generation racer because your great grandpa owned race cars. But third generation racer, legendary dad, legendary grandpa, and you started going a different direction than them. So let's talk about your family. You got cousins that race, your uncles race, your dad race, your grandpa race. From the get-go, you always was going to race, wasn't you?
Well, it kind of had, its doubts growing up. Like, kind of was in more of the basketball era in school and everything. And just as I got older, I started to want to work on cars and mess with cars. And so I started, paying more attention to like my dad's side of going to the racetrack and doing the racing thing instead of just going and yelling from the side with my mom.
Yeah, well, your mom does plenty of yelling from the side. So if you got that part conquered, that's the easy part.
Yeah, it was. She definitely made it interesting.
Yeah. When you decided to go racing, what was your decision making? Because your dad is in the Kentucky Motorsports Hall of Fame. Your papa, or pawpaw as we call him, won the world championship for great race. That's all done on pavement. You're paving your own path, so to speak. You went dirt racing. What was the decision on that?
There was definitely a lot of parts in it, really. Just kind of, my dad, he's did everything you could possibly do at, like the highest division, sports drum and speed drum and all that offer. And it was a lot to live up to, and he's lived that life, and him and Pawpaw, they've been there and done all that for years, so it was just time to start something new.
Well, I'm going to kind of halfway take blame for this, because a lot of people listen to this. First off, we're going to get about 5,000 or 6,000 listens, so if you say anything that you regret, just let me know and I'll take it out. Okay, you're
no
like, oh man.
Here. No regrets.
Yeah, no regrets. But a lot of people don't understand this. You kind of started your racing career in my backyard.
Yeah, I really didn't know a lot about dirt racing, To be honest, I just knew figure eight and watching my dad win. That was really all we knew. If he lost, we was all mad, and COVID hit and we couldn't play basketball. We couldn't do nothing. But my dad, he was still racing some, and I started coming over to your house and we would watch more races on TV and started kind of following the late model guys and watching, the modified division, and it just took a big interest. Like, to me, it was a lot different and something that I seen that we could also do. And we started messing around with the go-karts in the backyard and not really racing like go-karts race. We were beating and banging and trying to throw slide jobs and running the cushion up against the garage. And it was just, I don't know, it was just different. I just kind of fell in love with it.
Well, it's funny. My wife went to the grocery store one day, and she come home, and we kind of had a go-kart track in the backyard because we all had go-karts, but we were racing them in the woods on the big 2.5 mile super speedway.
Yeah.
And we couldn't even see each other. So he's like, we need to do something a little bit different. But you and Kevin and Parker and Bob, you guys kind of come together because none of you guys really knew anything about racing or working on anything. It was kind of, my garage was kind of a free-for-all for you guys to learn, where you just started like, okay, this is what we need to do, and you think you can weld tie rods now.
Yeah, we messed up the garage out there for sure for quite some time. It probably had 10, 11, 12, maybe 13 go-karts in it at once. So we was kind of rough on your equipment at the start.
That's part of it. But did you guys have fun?
Yeah, it was a blast.
Yeah, and the I always screw this word up, but the camaraderie between you and Parker and Kevin, or people listening may know him as nephew.
Yeah.
But you and Kevin are doing this together. You got Pawpaw's help, and you got your dad's help, but you guys are kind of trying to learn the car together. And how much fun is it, to do this with your best friend? Because I raced all over the place, and I did it with my dad, and it was really cool, but I didn't have a best friend. I mean, my little brother Ricky went for a while until he started racing. That's why I told you, don't ever let your help start racing, because then you'll be doing it by yourself. But how much fun is it?
Yeah, it's really hard to explain. I mean, it's a ton of fun, and I'm grateful for it. But it just like we've kind of did the same thing forever. We was on the same basketball team and did this. I guess we're pretty much brothers. I would look at Kevin more as a brother than anything else, and it's a lot of fun. It's new to us just about every night. And Kevin, he's really got good at learning the car and kind of learning what to adjust, and I can tell Kevin what I think it needs, and he's able to do that now. And I couldn't race without Kevin for sure, because it's a lot to do out in the garage. And Kevin, he's over here every night after work too, and he does really probably about 80% of the work, and I do the tires and mess around with the car. But Kevin, he's kind of the glue to our team for sure.
Well, I always ask somebody a tough question, but I don't really know how, because I know the answer to this, but everybody else don't, so I don't know how much of a tough question it is, because we've talked about this before. But living up to your dad's expectations and your pawpaw's expectations, how tough is that? Or is it just, hey, I'm doing this, I'm going to do my way, and this is the way it's going to be? I mean, how tough is it? Because your dad's won 22, 23 track championships. Your pawpaw won the world championship figure 8 race. So, and they were the best in their discipline of racing. But how tough is it each week, or do you just not even think about it? Because to you, there's still just dad and pawpaw.
Well, nobody can live up to Pawpaw's expectations. I'm almost certain of that. I'm pretty sure if me and my dad ran first and second in the Daytona 500, Pawpaw would definitely have something to say that we didn't do right for sure. But I don't know. I try to not look at it that way, and that's kind of why I wanted to do my own thing, and not try to necessarily do what they've done, because I probably would never be able to. And I just kind of dirt racing. The only thing they can tell me where they think I should have been on the track, but they can't tell me how to drive the race car, because don't quote me on this, but I would say they couldn't either.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you said that, because your pawpaw one time told me, he goes, well, I don't know what to tell him. Hell, I think he's doing good.
Yeah.
So, I was laughing because I know your answer to that. They've all won at the highest level. And then when you started racing, when you and your dad sat down to me and said, what do you think about the open wheel modifieds? I was like, that's probably the hardest division there is to run. You guys are like, I don't know if it is, but now that you're 4 years into this, how tough is it to run the open wheel modifieds?
Well, it's tough, but it's kind of like, I would say my first year racing, we would go to the racetracks around here, like the closer tracks, and there'd be 15, 16 mods. That that's a good count for around here, and if we ran in the top 10, we thought that was pretty successful. And I'd like to say that we've all grown and got better at everything we've done with the dirt stuff. And if we go to a track around here and if we don't win or run second, we're pretty upset, really. I mean, but there's a whole different, level to it. Like when you get up there with the national guys and stuff, it's a whole different game.
Because you didn't grow up seeing the dirt racing, seeing the different atmospheres, the competition, the travel.
Pretty much my whole life, I've been like a fierce competitor. It don't matter if we play cards after this, I'd be mad if I lost. So pretty much.
If we play Uno, you're losing.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know.
And I'd probably be a little salty, but it's crazy. Just I've always wanted to win and do everything I can to win, and just basketball, arguing with your buddy after playing one-on-one in the driveway. You want to win, and dirt racing, it's actually kind of, I guess, helped me grow up and grow out of that, because it's any racing, but I feel like dirt especially, it's really hard to win. It's always kind of like a big wake-up call. My whole career, and just this year, like a good example, we won our biggest race I've ever won. It was at Florence with the Northern Series. There was 40 modifieds. We ended up setting fast time, winning the heat race, and winning the feature.
Competition with the Northen Allstar modifieds.
Yeah, definitely. And then the next Northern race, we was at Paragon, and I just swept the night. We have high hopes going in, and we was pretty good. And sure enough, I ended up in the B main.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in a transfer spot until maybe the white flag. It was getting a little scary, like I wasn't going to make the show. And that just kind of goes to show you, from winning to the B main, and then I ended up running pretty good in the feature, and probably because we might have wore Brian's phone out, and he maybe woke him up, and he gave us some tips, and we ended up coming up through the field. And then the next weekend again, anybody that runs around here knows Brownstown's really hard to win at, and we went up to Brownstown again, a bunch of cars, and was really fast, and actually led the first 17 laps, and ended up getting past at the end. And it was disappointing, but then still you're kind of on top of the world around here. And then we go to Illinois, and I can't even dream of seeing the front row. So it's just, it's really been a real humbling experience, and maybe that's what makes the highs really high and the lows, well, they're pretty low.
They're pretty well. It's fascinating to me because you're so young and so new to this, but I've preached that to you over the years. Don't get too high, don't get too low. I've seen Jimmy Owens win the World 100 and miss the feature of the Dirt Track World Championship the next weekend. This is the Lucas Oil Late Model Champion. Over 600 modified wins, over 400 late model wins. One night, he's the best car at the racetrack. The next night, he doesn't even make the race. So it's one of those things where dirt racing will humble you for sure, especially as young as you are, as new as you are to the sport. I know you've been doing it 4 years now. You're racing 50 nights a year, so that's 200 races. Some people say, 200 races, that's more than I've raced forever. But you're racing against guys that's been doing it for 20 years with 50 and 60 nights a year. So don't get too high, don't get too low, and always stay even keel is the best way. But that sure is hard to do when you're banging the cushion and throwing slide jobs and running as hard as you can.
Yeah, it's and then another thing, like my dad and Pawpaw, well, heck, they could run 500 laps. My dad ran 500 laps, and then I go run 30 laps, and I'm wore out. So they all kind of, they kind of beat on me there a little bit, and that I couldn't hang with them. So we would just have to see maybe if I could ever do that one time.
Well, maybe they need to try to run your 30 laps.
I think so. Yeah. I'd like to see Pawpaw to race, really. We'll get a bigger seat, maybe take the roof off and get Pawpaw in there, and we'll see what he can really do.
Well, we can at least take him around the track once.
Yeah. Maybe get a two-seater. That would be good.
Yeah, but he's got to ride with you first, but then you ride with him.
Yeah, I don't know if I would even need a helmet riding with Pawpaw.
You kind of ran a touring series with the Ironman Modified Series with sprinkling in 50 other races, especially since everything got rained out that year. I think it was 3 races on the whole series.
It was a rain-out series for sure.
Last year you ran second in the Cumberland Plateau Open Wheel Modified Series, and that's a lot of travel. Competition is really good, but there's a ton of travel involved. This year you decided that you were going to chase the Northen Allstar Modified points because it's a lot closer, a whole lot closer most nights, but there's still a ton of travel, and the competition you guys are averaging like 40 cars a night. So it's not like you're going to the racetrack and I'm going to win tonight. It's hell. Are we going to make the show tonight? So the competition that you're competing with it's really hard for someone who's still relatively new to it. I mean, this is your 4th season, so being the points leader at the Northen Allstar Modified Series, what's your goal for the year? Obviously, it's to win points, but what is your goal for the rest of the season?
It really would kind of the main thing we're looking at is to, like you said, to win those points. That would be a huge accomplishment, and especially like. Because that James Essex, he's famous and everybody knows James and that's his series, and it would just be cool for us to win it. I feel like we've won some races, and then last year fell short of that championship, which was kind of a huge bummer from us because we were fairly close all year, and then some things happened at the end of the season and it just ended up not working out. So we've kind of set the bar high this year, and would really like to really win those points and just maybe pick up a few more wins, a few more good runs, go to some bigger shows and get in the show and, have good runs. Really, there's not nothing like crazy that we're trying to do, but those points would definitely be at the top of the list.
What you got one track championship when I-65 ran a couple years ago. It was a Wednesday night deal, so you were still chasing points for a couple touring series, but you was able to pick up a track championship. I know that's got to be satisfying, but you just come off, you're sitting 4th right now in the Hell Tour points. I know you guys aren't going to run the whole Hell Tour because they kind of coincide with some of the Northen Allstar stuff, but your first week being out on the road, Dirt Car Summer Nationals, for people that don't understand, explain to them how hard that actually is.
I really necessarily, for us, like, it's obviously hard, like, to go out on the road and to race every day. But if you think, like, the way we was kind of thinking about it, well, at home we'd be working as well. So we was just able to go out on the road and sleep late if Pawpaw would quit making noise in the toter home, and sleep late and get the car out and work on the car and go racing. So really that's kind of a dream to race every day. It wasn't all too much hell for us, except, the first day we ended up breaking some parts and having to travel across the universe, it felt like, and set in traffic all day. So the first day I think we ended up driving 16 hours, and we made it to the racetrack about 30 minutes before hot laps. And that day was tough. No sleep, driving all day. But then the next day, we kind of got to work on the car and hang out and have a good time, and we had a good run. And then we had a rain out, and then we got to Fairbury, and everything was good, and kind of didn't get the run we wanted at Fairbury, but we had 50 cars we locked into the show, which is...
That's an accomplishment itself.
Yeah, it's hard to do. Some people might look at it, well, he ran 13, but if you look at the rundown, it was a pretty good run considering, and us not really running up there. But as far as the Hell Tour goes, I've been kind of just pouting around this week because I want to be back on it. And I want to keep. I don't want to mow no grass. I want to keep racing. It's more like a fun tour for us. It seemed like.
Well, that's because you're still young. When you're old like me, it's the Hell Tour.
Yeah, I think catching up on some sleep around the house. You didn't really know how tired you was until you got home. It felt like.
A lot of people don't know this, but tore the car up the first day and had to take it to Royal Race Cars, which is northwest of Chicago. So he's still pretty new at driving the toter and the trailer.
Yeah.
His dad turned him loose this year, and so not only does he have to work on the car and drive the car, but he's also got to drive the truck now. But he found out Chicago traffic is no joke.
No joke at all. I don't understand how somebody could live out there and drive through that. I wouldn't leave the house. Took you an hour to go 10 minutes. It was wild.
And was that before or after you got lost?
I was kind of lost the whole time. I think I was going the right way when we made it to traffic, but our GPS kind of, I don't know, it needs to be hooked to the Wi-Fi, it needs to be updated, because it had me and nephew going in a square. We went in the same square for about an hour and just getting off exits and getting back on. There's caution cones and it was dark, and we thought about throwing it out the window, but we eventually somehow made it on the right path, and I'm not really sure. And then we entered Chicago traffic a few hours later. So,
well, see, at least you've got a story. Like, everybody's got a racing story. Hell, I went the wrong way, and one night, this is funny as hell. So, the first time that I went to Terre Haute, I was not trying to go to Terre Haute. I was trying to go to Boswell. I got to the intersection, and this truck and trailer passes me and goes left, and see, this is going to make me sound really old because you guys laugh when I get the map out. But this was back in the map days. There was no GPS, so I opened the map up, and I'm thinking, I need to go right. Then another truck and trailer goes left. And I said, hell, I guess I'm going left. So I made a left and drove an hour and a half down the road, and I pull into Terre Haute. You want to know what's even funnier? They weren't even running our division that night. So it was me and Ricky. He was with me, and we looked, and we didn't have enough time to get back to the other racetrack, so we just watched the sprint cars and late models that night. we just put the truck and trailer out in the parking lot because we had no time to make it to the other track. I was like, damn, we done went 200 miles out of the wrong way. So it's kind of like Dumb and Dumber,
Yeah, I passed school, with pretty flying colors, and I learned more over here watching Bobby look at his globe, spinning his globe around in the living room before we went somewhere, and looking at a map in the truck. So he's not lying about pulling out the map and stuff.
Well, that's you always got to know where you're going. I mean, hell, what if your GPS don't work? You think you learned a valuable lesson? Maybe you need to get a map put up in the. I've got something I'll show you. Tell you about it for me. It's the whole United States with all the road maps. You can put it up on the toter wall.
We just tried every road until eventually one was right. That's what we did.
So you eventually got there, huh?
Yeah, eventually. It was a good probably 45-minute delay at least. It was pretty frustrating, but we made it through.
Well, and then you got 2 hours of sleep instead of one. So you would have got 3, but you spent an hour riding in circles or squares, as you call it.
Yeah, and then there's really no place to sleep either, because I guess you don't really realize every semi goes to every truck stop, so there's never a place to park. The rest areas are completely full. At some point, you think you might just sleep in the emergency lane, but Papa won't let you, so you got to keep on going.
Speaking of Pawpaw, I can tell being around him that this is new to him, and he's having the time of his life. He absolutely loves you guys going dirt racing. How special is that? Because I didn't get to race with my grandpa was sick, and he passed away, so I didn't get to race with my grandpa. How special is that? Because all you got to do is send Pawpaw a text, and he's going to be at the house might have 4 duffel bags, but he's going to be at the house ready to go.
He brings all the duffels, whether we're going for a day, a night, or however long we're going. He's got the same amount of stuff. So he might be able to race year round out of that bag. We're not really sure what he's got in there. But it's really cool. I couldn't really see it no other way. Paul Ball, he keeps all my stuff. He's got his department. He keeps my engine and everything that he likes to do in tip-top shape, and it's really special to be able to go out and make memories, with Paw Paw. And really, if you just told a few stories about him, and we're not going to say what we talk about half the time. It's not about racing, but we're not going to discuss that. But if you told somebody a story about Paw Paw, you would think he was 20 years old too.
Yeah.
It's he's definitely still got a young soul, and I think he can still outwork us all too.
I don't think, I know.
Yeah, I know too. I just didn't really want to say it. Yeah. But he's probably, him and Kev are competing for the hardest worker on the crew, no doubt. Yeah. But I don't really, know how to explain how special it is, because, it just really is, making the memories with your grandpa. You can't really put a price on it. And what Paw Paw, He's taught us all the right way to do everything, his way, and he still watches us like we're 5 years old working on the car, and he corrects us. And
multiple times.
Yeah. Multiple times, yeah. And just, I don't know, I couldn't do it without Paw Paw, that's for sure. Actually, I got a couple good stories about Paw Paw, really. Growing up, I never got to see the racing side of Paw Paw, like when he raced, and you heard his stories and my dad's stories, but I just got to watch my dad kick butt over there and win a bunch. But I never got to see Paw Paw race really. And last weekend, actually, we was at Brownstown, and we unloaded the race car, and somebody came up to me, and they asked me if my dad was Rance Harmon. And I was
He's like, Dad, hell, that's my Paw.
I'm thinking this guy's been away for maybe 40 years or something. I was like, no, that's my grandpa. And he starts telling me, just a random guy, I've never met him before, and he starts telling me about how he watched Paw Paw win here and at Charlestown and do this and win the 3-hour and do all this and that. So I ended up, flagging Paw Paw down and telling Paw Paw what was going on. And then Paw Paw, he goes off and he talks to this old guy for an hour, and he ends up, then I go to the driver's meeting, guy comes back up to me, and he's like, hey, you think your grandpa would sign an autograph for me? He's asking me this at a dirt track.
You're like, well, I mean, sure, why won't he?
Yeah, I said, I don't know, go ask him. And sure enough, Paw Paw's signing autographs, and that just, that was really cool to me, just to know, and it's cool to be around Paw Paw, and Paw Paw wants to help us and help me, and he's a legend.
Well,
and
you still got people asking for the autographs, and the what's really crazy about the whole situation is because there's no video back then, so there's no way for you to say, oh, well, Paw Paw, let's sit down and watch these tapes. Where with your dad, when you were small, you could still watch the videos and say, okay, look, you're doing this, you're doing that. With Paw Paw, there was no videos back then, so the racing stories is all you got. And when somebody walks up to you, we can say it all the time. Your dad can say, man, my dad was good. And you were like, yeah, okay. Because we always thought, you're like, he's got a 55 Ford running 30 mile an hour, but it's got to be really neat, because I get that a lot with my dad as well, and I'm sure you're the same way with your dad, where people come up and say, man, I remember when your dad did this. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was actually, it was cool that happened. And then even the next week, or maybe 2 weeks after, when we went to Illinois, we unloaded the race car in Illinois. And, well, this guy, he knew I wasn't Chris anyway, but he came straight up to Paw Paw and wanted Paw Paw's autograph again. Another guy in another state. So it was, Paw Paw has been pretty famous the last 2 weeks, it seems like.
Well, that's part of it. He's making his ways around now. He didn't know nothing about dirt racing. Now he knows all about it. Everybody knows him again.
Yeah, and for all the, the figure eight guys out there, I will say this, Paw Paw, he's probably y'all's biggest promoter. He lets everybody at the dirt track know about figure eight racing.
You turn both ways. There's an intersection. He lets everybody know.
And then even if we go on a long trip, the first day he'll wear 2018 figure eight madness. The next day 2019. The next day 2020. However long we go is how many figure eight madness shirts he brings.
Well, he stays true to heart. But you can't do it without him, though. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And it's, like I said, it's neat. I've always just seen him on the working side of things. And even when I was a kid, I'd sit out there and he'd be working on my dad's car. And, I'd be flooring the gas pedal and he's yelling at me to quit flooding it and all that kind of thing. But turns out, he was also a legend racer and all that. So that was really cool.
When he's correcting you those multiple times, you're not gonna have nothing fall off the car.
No,
nothing is.
I've never had a part fall.
Don't say that. Don't say that. The next 3 races, something's gonna fall off. But
you ain't gotta worry about that with Paw Paw checking your shit. It ain't gonna fall off.
No, it is not. He's got a wrench on top of a wrench on top of a wrench.
No impacts either. He'll check it with a wrench after you tighten it with. You can use an impact or whatever you want to do. He's gonna check it with a wrench.
How many times a race trip does he yell at you guys about the impacts?
I think he's kind of thinks we're a lost cause on the impacts. I think he started to finally give up on it, that we're not going to use anything else. Now he just yells at us really about the speed in the truck.
Well, I heard you guys moved him to the back though, right?
Well, I guess he got too scared up front. He kind of volunteered and moved to the back, and it was a lot calmer back there for him, I think.
Well, he turns the TV on, watches the TV, and it just, hey, Ben, put on a movie for me.
I heard him talking to Mama on the phone. He told her, he said, I don't know where we're going or what we're doing. I just hang out back here, fall asleep, wake up, and we're somewhere at a racetrack or at a truck stop.
Well, that's not a bad problem to have, though.
No,
that's a good time. Going forward, what is your goal? What's your main goal? What are you wanting to accomplish? What are you wanting to do?
It's kind of harder to say, with dirt racing. Like, I feel like in the modified, I would like to be a well-known competitor. I like to be able to pull into, any racetrack and be like, okay, yeah, he's in contention to win for sure. That goes for anywhere up there, Illinois or Florida. I'd definitely like to be faster in Florida because it's been a rough few years going down there. Just kind of to keep building on our program and eventually be, one of the top, cars that, don't get me wrong, I got all the great equipment to do it and stuff, but I'd just like to be well known and be able to go up there and get a big win at Fairbury or go win at Volusia or just kind of go win everywhere. And then, I'd also like to drive a late model, but that's everybody's dream.
Yeah.
So, but as far as right now, I just like to keep kind of focusing on what we're doing and just keep kind of chipping away at the modified world.
Well, with the modified world, one of the big issues with modified racing is the cost of the car versus the reward of the payouts. I know you got great sponsors and your family has put you in a position, but how do you justify what race you're going to go to versus what it pays, or it just I'm just going here because that's where I want to go? How do you justify that?
Well, that's really, if you really try to break down the rules with the modified, there is no justifying it. We just go where we want to go and just race and have a good time and try to not really focus on that because, it was really kind of a big smack in the face last week. You go up there, you race all week, you travel the same roads, you pay the same pit insurance, and, you spend every bit of the same as the late model guys, and their race is paying, well, I got second and got $700, and they pay like maybe a few night. The big night was like $1,000 to start.
Yeah.
So there's really no justifying it. If you look at it that way, there's no chance in the world a modified guy could ever make money unless, it was really broke down and you had a racetrack, I guess, where you could drive your car to it and not even fill up with fuel. But I'm just lucky enough to, have the people behind me, and we're just able to go race and focus on, getting better with me, getting better, and, getting better with the race car and all that kind of thing.
A lot of people know this, but they don't really know the ins and outs behind it. I'm not going to say you're the Bandit race car or the Royal by Bandit house car, but you're the one that's racing the most, so you're the one that has the most information and the most support. Because if you're racing 50 times and another guy's racing 10, you're going to have 5 times the more energy put into it. How important is Brian Barber to your race team?
There's really no way to put words on how important all these guys are to me. Like Kev and Papa, my dad, but Brian, we would definitely be a lot slower than we are without Brian helping. And he's always just a call or a message away, and he's not far from the house, so we can always go down there and get stuff and take the car down there. And if he'll bring parts up here if needed. And he's been a huge part to our life really the past 3 or 4 years we've raced the Bandit. He's a great guy. He helps us out a ton. And the cool thing about Brian is too, he believes, which he is, he is a really good driver, so he'll give me the same thing he's got. He's not going to try and make me slower than him. He might even try to make me faster than him, and he just still...
Well, he believes he's going to outrun you anyways because he's that kind of competitor.
And he typically does. But it's it's really cool to have. I would more or less look at Brian as like a friend, than anything. And obviously we support Bandit like crazy, and he definitely supports us with helping us and really giving us all the tools we need, anything we need at any time, except he does go to bed pretty early. So a lot of times he wasn't there for the summer national adjustments because he was already sleeping. But he, if we're at the track or on the weekends, he's a night owl, so he's always that call away, and it helps out big time. And even his son Jackson helps out big time. He comes if Brian's not racing, he comes to the track with us. Like he even came up to Fairbury last weekend, so and helps out. So it's just like a racing family that it's created for us, and they're just really good people, and we're super lucky to be able to call them friends and like Brian to help us out like he does.
How has your mom decided that she's not going to go absolute bonkers on you and just let you guys go racing now? Because there for a while, it terrified her to death, and she couldn't handle it there. I remember that night at Bloomington Speedway, I thought she was going to kill every one of us. And it was my fault for getting you to like dirt racing. It was your dad's fault because you couldn't hold the steering wheel, and it was your fault for not being ready. So
yeah, it was,
how does that come full circle?
It was a rough night at Bloomington. I don't think I'll ever forget that night. 2 spins and you're gone, and Mom gets there late, and a car flips over top of the fence near her car in the parking lot. So, and I can even remember her first race. We decided we was gonna go to Brownstown back when the icebreaker was a big thing, and it had rained, and I was not the only one thinking it. Maybe it wasn't for me. I can remember Mike McKinney passed me so fast in hot laps I couldn't even see the number on the side of his car. And the track ended up, it like roughed out. We was sitting up there watching the heats, and the late models kept flipping, and a helicopter had to take one of them out. And after about 5 flips, they called it, and like you said, I think my mom, she had enough. She was done. We were done racing.
Yep. First race, we're done.
Yeah, the late models are flipping, and you're talking about the track having character and laughing, and it's just turned into, a nightmare in her eyes for sure.
But see, I've been around all that before. I was telling you, it'll be all right, just don't run through the rough stuff.
Yeah. If somebody flipped at the Sportstrom, that was a huge thing. And dirt cars, they seem to flip every night. At least one.
At least
somebody's going over.
Did when you started racing dirt, did you ever see yourself where you're like, okay, there's a wreck here, there's this? Like, is it still surprising to you? It's like, oh my God, that record. Have you seen so much now where you're just kind of like, well, I'm glad it wasn't me?
Well, it does. If you're sitting in the stands, and somebody flips out of the park, and I was, I can't remember where we was, but we was racing, and I was behind a guy, and he was running the top. I can't, trying to think on where it was, but he ended up flipping. You know where I'm talking about? It was like my second year racing. He flipped, and I had to swerve to avoid him flipping, and, from the stands perspective, you kind of think about it, but racing, I couldn't seem to think about it. He flipped on the cushion, and then we're back green, and I'm running the cushion again, and I'm thinking in my head, what am I doing? But you don't get off of it. You just don't ever, you just, I guess as a racer, you try to not look at it that way, but when you're in the stands and you see somebody flip, and it really just kind of more or less now we look at it as, well, obviously the race cars are safe, Brian, like Royal and Bandit, my race car's safe, so I'm not worried about anything ever happening to me. Typically, I just don't want my stuff to have to be jigged and not to tear up anything. Cause,
you and me both.
Yeah.
You and me both.
So now if we see a guy flip, we're more or less kind of looking at his car, like what happened to his race car, and as long as they're all right and that kind of thing. But it just turned, I don't know, it's just kind of a weird feeling.
Well, one thing I want to ask you about, because you told me when we were doing the, I guess we'll call it race car schooling in the backyard where we had to go-karts, and I would water the track down, and we put cones out there and try sliders, and you crash over the bank. Have you figured out the slider yet?
I don't know. Some nights you can throw a good slider. Some nights I think you forget how to race. I had a few patches at the beginning of this year. I thought I was washed up, really. I couldn't do anything. And I don't know, some nights you can throw a slider, some nights you can't. Some nights you feel like you're driving good, and some nights you forget that, like your first night in a race car.
Well, it's funny because I remember you kept saying, how am I going to learn how to do this? I said, oh, you'll just figure it out. And then you crash over the bank, and I'm like, well, I don't know if he's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then we do it again. I'm like, all right, you're getting better. And then as soon as you get it, you wreck again. You're like, how are you doing that? I'm like, it just comes with time.
Yeah, it definitely the go-karts. It's obviously different in a big car, but the go-karts definitely, out here definitely really taught me kind of the main concepts of racing and how to race and just kind of how to be around somebody. And, you know, definitely with your buddies, you use your bumper and your door bars a little more than you would at a racetrack, but it kind of taught me how to pass. It taught us the main concepts of racing for sure. And it was a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, it was one of those things where once we started it, it started growing and growing, and people started coming, and we had to kind of slow it down a little bit because one night we had like 18 people in my backyard racing go-karts. And it's like anything else, it got ultra competitive, but I think you and Kevin learned so much just mechanic-wise, how to use tools, how to use welders, how to, like you said, how to race, how to slide, how not to slide. I mean, how when I would water the track down, you know, you guys getting a push and you're like, well, it's too wet there. And I'm like, well, when you're going to go race somewhere and it's going to be too wet,
go somewhere
you got to go somewhere else. So looking back on it, there was a lot of stuff that went on in the backyard that when I see you at the track now, just, you know, like earlier, it was early last year when you guys were at Bloomington, and I come up, because I don't get to go with you guys as much anymore, because I'm doing 10,000 other things as we're sitting here on the podcast. One of the 10,000, but as I seen you at Bloomington, you got all tight in the cushion in qualifying, and then the next lap you backed it into the cushion and, you know, laid down a good lap. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know, that's something he learned in the backyard when we spray the water down on, you know, with just one turn, and, you know, because without that you just drove in there and pushed over again, you know. So it's funny how the little bitty track in the backyard that's rough, that, you know, taught you so much about progressing in your racing career.
Yeah, it definitely, you know, it teaches you a lot. And like that night, I still, that's another one of those nights that I feel like I forgot how to race. I actually remember hot laps, pushing off the front stretch, like Dukes of Hazzard off the front stretch. After Kevin, my dad, they gave my left rear a little more traction, and needless to say, I couldn't hold it. So, yeah, it was definitely a wild night. Ended up pushing off in hot laps, and I think then I ended up spinning out one lap in qualifying, going off the bank the other lap, and then I think I finally got a decent lap. It's
third time was a charm.
Yeah, it seemed like it that night for sure, but it kind of taught you, you know, how to slide around, I guess, racing out there, you know, more than anything, you know, how to more or less, like, if it's greasy, you know, you're definitely putting some wheel in it for sure.
Well, and one thing it taught you guys too is track prep, because you guys had to work on the racetrack, so you kind of could, you know, when you're at the racetrack now, when you see them scratching the top or watering this, you kind of know what it's going to do, because, you know, you experienced it with, oh my God, they're putting a ton of water on that. You're like, yeah, that's, you know, we watered this turn way too much, so you kind of know, you know, going forward, it's like, ooh, I better back up on that one.
I think I just need to back up from track prep in general, because I tried to prep the kart track last weekend, and it didn't turn out too well. But definitely it kind of...
You didn't like the ruts?
No, I didn't like the ruts, and I think I don't really know, but I wasn't the best. I'm not dogging on anybody for prepping the track. As long as they're giving effort, that's all I care. It's the same for everybody, so... But, I mean, then again, if they're not trying to make it better, then... Yeah, you can kind of be pissed, but as long as they're giving the effort, it's cool with me, because I can't prep a 30-foot-long go-kart track, so I definitely don't need to be anywhere near a big track.
You don't need to be giving no pointers at all, do you?
No, I don't need to be in the tractor. I don't need to be in anything. I need to be just at the hauler.
In staging.
Yeah.
We're waiting to see what they gave you. What tracks do you prefer to run? What kind of track do you prefer? Like, ideal, perfect racetrack. All right, I'm going to go out and race. What do you prefer?
Obviously, I feel like lately I would have liked it to be a little bit slicker. You know, I've kind of, when I first started out, just about all I could do was hold it wide open. If there wasn't any grip, then I was toast. But now I kind of like it to be slicker. But really, the perfect track to me is really like Fairbury. It's
slick in the middle with a curve.
Yeah, it's the perfect size, and well, last week it was a little different, but it's about the perfect size, and you gotta, you know, give it some wheel early and then kind of progress as the night goes on.
Do you ever see yourself where you take a chance and try the figure eight thing because everybody in the family's done it? Or is it, man, we've already done that and I don't want to go to those same 3 tracks?
Well, yeah, I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't care to maybe like drive a figure eight car in practice, just to drive one and be like, hey, I've drove one, but I don't really have any interest in getting out there and getting hit in the intersection because I'm so focused on, what I've been doing and how I've been racing. You don't
want to look down in the other turn.
No, I don't need. I need to look out in front of me going around the racetrack, not to my left, not to my right. So I don't feel like I would do very good with kind of watching the intersection and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, but that also, your form of discipline of racing that you're doing right now, it's such a different dynamic. When you're running pavement in general, it's slow down, hit your marks. Same way with the figure eight, slow down, hit your marks. All right, look, and you hope that guy on the other turn hit his marks, so your distance is the same. Where on figure eight racing, most of our races are 75 to 100 laps. You go out there 20, 25 laps and just run it as hard as you can for 20 or 25 laps. Is that one of the things that kind of intrigued you about dirt racing? Because it's on go the whole time. There's never no riding.
Yeah, for sure. And a little off topic, but I tried to run asphalt in the driveway last weekend in the go-karts because the yard was too wet and I pushed into the basketball goal. So that, but like you said, I mean, it's definitely different. I mean, I've actually kind of like a longer race, nights that we get to run, like I say longer, like 30 laps seems longer to me for sure, and that's kind of why I always like to run the harder right rear because I just like to race. I don't want to have to worry about saving this, saving that. I just want to get out there and race as hard as I can until it's over, and that'd be the end of it.
Yeah. Do you think your dad will ever totally understand what you do in a car versus what he did in the car? Because I know a lot of times he sits back and your dad's a really smart fan as far as watching the race. He can kind of tell where people's making up ground and just natural driving ability. He knows that he's turning off the cushion, making a run. But because he did it for so long, totally different style racing, do you think that he'll ever really understand the difference, in your discipline?
Well, I think he already really kind of does. I mean, obviously in qualifying, just about every night you're sideways and holding it wide open. So in qualifying, it's kind of hard to tell, but he gives me quite a bit of pointers, like, on more or less how to race. He don't tell me how I need to drive the car, but he kind of tells me, well, this guy was doing this guy was doing that, and he looked better here than you, and kind of, he, like you said, sees where other guys are making speed. He don't necessarily tell me how I need to enter the corner, exit the corner. He just tells me kind of how he thinks I need to race, like looking at the other cars, what them guys are doing compared to me, and that kind of thing. And he's never even really been like crazy hard on me, like at that kind of point or whatever, just because, he's never been on the dirt track, and he definitely has never told me how to drive the race car. He did one night at Farmer City, and you was there.
Yeah, I was there that night.
It was our first night ever in Illinois. He told me how to drive the car, and let's just say I was doing it totally wrong from what he thought I needed to be doing. And
yeah, that's I guess that's the most politically correct way of saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, and after that, I think he totally abandoned that ship, and he's just like, I'm just gonna let them do whatever they think they need.
let them figure it out.
He'll tell me a lot of times he'll watch like the race or the heat race before us. Hey, the winner was running here and that kind of thing. But he's been really cool about just kind of letting me figure out how I need to drive the car, or and kind of letting like Brian, he gives me a lot of pointers on how to drive as well.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Because a lot of people don't see this side of it, but Brian is a hell of a driver coach, isn't he? He's a really good driver coach.
Brian's a great guy to have at the racetrack helping you. You don't really want him racing against you. You want him helping you for sure, because he's definitely a wheelman, especially if somebody tries to pass him. He really gets up on the dang wheel. I've seen Brian win a few big races.
I've called a few of those big races.
Yeah, I've been running third or fourth and just kind of watching Brian go around there. You know, you're kind of thinking, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then you got the same setup as him and you can't do nothing. So, yeah,
you try to run in the corner that hard and you're on edge.
Yeah, I'm spun in the fence. I'm not running like how he's running for sure. He's a great driver, and he's definitely helped me a lot on, you know, how to drive, how he drives the car, and kind of that thing. Because he's a real smooth driver for sure.
Well, I always ask people this before we get off here. So who do you want to thank makes all this happen? I know there's I kind of put you on the spot a little bit here, but who do you want to thank that makes all this go around?
You know, obviously my mom and dad are my biggest supporters, and then, you know, everybody that lends a hand to the car. You know, Paul, he's a big help, obviously, and then Kevin, you know, my right-hand man, you, and I'd also like to thank, even though he's not helping out in the garage, my other Grandpa Eddie, he's been a big help to my program. He always, you know, make sure we got fuel money and something to maybe get at the concession stand, or heck, he's even came with us and cooked before. So I definitely want to thank him for all he's done for us. I definitely wouldn't be racing at all if it wasn't, well, for my dad, really. Well, let me rephrase that. If it wasn't for my mom letting my dad let me race, let's just say that. Yeah. But definitely, you know, my parents are obviously my biggest supporters by a landslide on any of that thing, and it's kind of a blessing some nights having my mom at the racetrack, if she's not trying to beat up anybody or beat up my dad or beat up you, or she's even came after me a few nights. Yeah. But if it's having a blessing there, because if I'm not doing the best, she'll ask my dad, she'll say, well, why is he not running good? What do we need? What does he need to run better? So it kind of lets mom, she can see that I'm not doing the best, and she wants me to do better, so she's going to let my dad do what we need to get better. And obviously, if my dad didn't race, I probably wouldn't race and that kind of thing. So just having my parents backing me like they have, and just my dad, you know, giving us everything we need, and even letting us go out on the road by ourselves with, you know, his truck and his trailer, and just doing, you know, whatever he needs to do to watch us get better and succeed. You know, it means a lot, and I obviously couldn't do it without either of them. Kentucky Clutch. Yeah. That's the number one for sure. And then, you know, Kevin's parents, Kim and Big Kev, with whatever it takes transmission, you know, they help us out a lot. And then Brian with, you know, Bandit race cars, he helps us with knowledge and all that kind of thing. And then Premier Auto Parts, which is also, it's all tied into Kentucky Clutch. Yeah. My dad's sponsors are still supporting my dad, pretty much, and which is now turned into, you know, my dad's racing team, and it's just not him driving. But Premier, and then Diamond Auto Collision, Richard, he's helped us out. And just, I know I'm forgetting some people, you know, Rhino Pack, just everybody, you know, you see on that thing has definitely lended us a hand and pitched in when they could. All
right, well, so current point leader for the Northen Allstar Modifieds. That sounds pretty cool. The last time the Northen Allstar Modifieds had a series, you weren't even born yet. How does that sound? How does that make you think?
I don't know. And I actually won that race, and James was asking me the same thing, and I was just kind of like, I mean, I don't really know what to say, because I don't know any of the previous Northern All-Stars at all. So
all you know is you're racing for James Essex.
Yeah, I'm racing, and I know James because he does Lucas on Flow, and that's what I wanted to do.
Okay, I said I was done, but I do this a lot. Speaking of Flow and Dirt Vision, how much of a tool is that? Do you go back and watch your race and be like, man, I really sucked here, or go back and like, man, I was so bad they didn't even get me on TV, or man, tonight was good, look how I ran this line. How much do you go back and watch and study?
Well, it all depends. Last week we watched Peoria. We didn't care about Kankakee, or we didn't care about Bullring, but we wanted to watch the race, but we knew we'd be on TV. Yeah. So, and you know, it's cool, and like just watching races all throughout the week, and, you know, it's about the only thing I ever turn on, pretty much. But it goes back before we get off. I'd like to, I forgot, just my head's kind of spinning here. But I'd like to thank you. You know, a few of our race cars, everybody knows that's Bobby. I couldn't count everything Bobby's done to my race car. All the amount of bodies, complete bodies he's put on, set aside from body panels he's put on, from welding and doing, you know, everything you've done. It's definitely, I couldn't have done it without you for sure. And still couldn't, as we're currently putting a body on my race car.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we do. Every time you leave for a week, I already know coming back that we're going to need at least half a body.
At least.
Yeah, at least half a body.
And it's always the first night we leave. I need a whole body after the first night.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the week goes pretty smooth.
It's all pretty smooth, yeah.
It's it always hurts in Florida because we put a new body on before I leave, and then I text you midweek and I say I need a complete body.
well, here's something funny. I wrote down your decking pieces that I made this week, so we don't even need the old ones to measure anymore. I've got them wrote down on the wall out there.
Good deal.
So
good deal.
I've got the decking pieces wrote down. Now, if you tear up the left side decking, that's different. But if you tear up the right side decking, I've got it wrote down, so we're good to go on that.
Sometimes you tear up the right side decking, you know, you can maybe feel proud if you're, you know, beating it down up top. But if you tear up the left side, you messed up bad.
It's usually a bad night.
It's usually a really bad night.
Well, that's funny that you say that because when I first started racing, I come in and I had like wheel marks all down my left side. And I told my dad, I said, man, look, they're abusing me. He goes, well, get faster. I said, what do you mean? He goes, right side of the car is tore up, you're winning. Left side of the car is tore up, you're too slow.
Yeah,
I said,
that's the truth.
I said, damn, I never thought of it that way.
Papa, he always tells us he remembers when my dad first started out, his bumper, instead of being knocked in, it was knocked forward, where guys were hooking him as they were passing. He always likes to bring that up.
That's funny. Well, Papa, he stays on you guys. He'll let you know what you did right, what you did wrong, but he'll also let you know when you do good. He's the first one that will say, I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
so that's
Papa's a treasure for sure.
Yeah, that means a lot. But current Northen Allstar modified points leader, current, I guess we're still in the top 5. You're still in the top 5 on the Hell Tour, right?
Yeah, as long as it keeps raining.
Yeah, if it keeps raining now.
I might have a chance at it.
Yeah, he's still got a shot at the top 5 on the Hell Tour run. He just needs it to rain for another week.
Yeah,
and then he can get back on the road.
I could get back on the road.
Well, how the hell you tear the roof up? I mean, you even tore up the roof.
It was a bad night. Yeah. Let's just say it. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your busy schedule. Well, I say busy schedule. I called him and got him out of bed. Yeah, so I don't know how busy his schedule was tonight.
Early tonight for once.
You're still worried about the Hell Tour, still trying to get it in. But Brooks, Kentucky's, the Brooks Bandit, B-Time, about 10 other nicknames. His daddy's son, his papa's baby boy, Ben Harmon. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Ben Harmon out of Brooks, Kentucky, 3rd-generation racer. Fascinating story of how he went dirt racing. I was kind of to blame for that a little bit. I didn't mean for it to be, but as a lot of people know, I coached high school basketball and middle school basketball and travel ball. And Ben and Kevin, as he talked about Kevin being his crew chief and learning the car together, they played together for me. I was able to coach them, and when COVID hit, racing, it was time for Ben to start racing. It just kind of worked out. I know his mom was probably going to kill me because we didn't even talk about his first race car. It was a Mini Cooper from his from his friends. His friend Grandpa had a Mini Cooper, and he wanted to know if they could run it in a front wheel drive division, a scrapper division. And I said, sure, why not? Go get it, and we'll put a cage in it. So, but good kid, comes from a great racing family.
Well, what I thought was cool was the other day, when I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago when I came over to do the podcast Sunday with you. Him and Parker and Kevin, they was back there running go-karts, having races on the go-kart track behind your house. And I mean, that was pretty cool because those guys worked so hard on that race car. It's good to see them get out and actually be able to have some fun like that, doing what they like doing. So,
well, and here's what was really cool about that whole deal. We talked about it. Ben talks about he's never gonna complain about anybody's track prep because he prepped the track that day and it was rougher than he ever thought it could be. He said so. So as long as they're trying, I'm good with it.
Right. Yeah.
But that was Ben Harmon. Yeah. He's a good kid, man. I'm proud. I'm proud of what he's doing. And I tell you one thing that I really, it's awful ballsy for your dad and grandpa to be the best in their discipline, and you not follow in their footsteps, and you try to do something that's even harder than what they did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's totally different. Where nothing carries over.
Yeah, that's
that's what's crazy. And his grandpa though, helping them. That is so cool that the three of them, him and his dad and grandpa, get to work together like it on the car. That's one of the coolest parts about it, I think.
Yeah, that's what, and I've told him that 1,000 times.
I think he realizes that is what's cool. I think he does realize that. So
yeah, he realizes it, and he's very thankful too. Yeah. But so that was this week's guest, Ben Harmon. Usually we give you guys about 10 different events going on this weekend, upcoming events. But I'm just going to name off a couple real quick. Because Flash and I are going to be at North Alabama Speedway for the Summer Sizzler this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Cumberland Plateau Open Wheel Modifieds, $2,000 to win Friday, $5,000 to win Saturday. The B-Mod Mania or the B-Mod Wars. It should be called the B-Mod National Championship, really. But the Tri-State Modifieds, they got $3,000 to win on Friday and $10,000 to win B-Mod race. I think they're inching close to the 100 car mark, pre-entries in the B mods, and in the A mods, I think we've already eclipsed the 40 number. So looks like we're going to have close to 150, 200 open wheel modifieds at North Alabama Speedway this weekend. So Flash and I will have plenty of work to do with teching and helping race direct and announcing. So there's a lot going to be going on in North Alabama for these 3 days. So it's gearing up for that. If you're in the local area, the Northen Allstar late models have a Friday and Saturday co-sanction with Hunt to Front. Friday night they're at Lake Cumberland Speedway in Burnside, Kentucky. And then Saturday night they're at Florence Speedway. Both are co-sanctioned with Hunt to Front. $20,000 to win. The Northen Allstar Modified Series this weekend will be at Moeller Raceway. $3,000 to win. Dwayne Ragland Memorial Friday night, and then Saturday they're on the docket as well at Florence Speedway. $1,500 to win. And then if you're wanting to see some non-wing sprint car racing in Ohio, I know the Buckeye Outlaw Series is pretty heavily over there, but if you want to see some non-wing sprint car racing in the state of Ohio, USAC will be at Fremont Speedway Saturday and Millstream, Ohio Sunday. And Friday night, the USAC Silver Crown is at Winchester Speedway for the Rich Fogler Classic. So that's all the stuff that's going on this weekend. There's plenty to do, plenty to see. But
plus the Summer Nationals are still going on.
Yeah,
so you can catch those on Dirt Vision.
Yeah, Summer Nationals on Dirt Vision. The Northen Allstar stuff is on Hunt to Front TV. High Limits on Flow. They're at Lucas Oil Speedway. There's tons and tons of stuff going on this weekend. So the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars are at Cedar Lake. I think I've seen that. So there's plenty to do. But guys, be safe. We know it's hot out there. Flash, I appreciate you squeezing me in between races while we try to get this stuff done. You got anything to add before we get off here?
I don't think so. Just everybody try to get out and support your local racetracks. I know it's hot outside, but like I tell everybody, I said, you got to be the drivers that are trying to put on a show for you in a racing suit and in the race car and sitting in the lineup shoot for 10 minutes. It's pretty warm in the car. So you think you're warm in the grandstands? It's really warm in your race car. I figured out I'm getting too old for this stuff almost, but it's still fun. So I ain't quitting until I decide I'm quitting.
Yeah, you're not quitting yet until it's time to quit.
Yeah, I might only run once a year, but I don't care.
Yeah. Well, until next time, we'll be trading sliders.